Hi, this is Evelyn Lozada. I am so glad to join the More Than a Strand global campaign. This is my survivor story. Being that I have been very public about my domestic violence incident, and basically I have talked about my story many, many times, and I have met so many women. I've had so many people reach out to me, and the stories that I've heard, the things that I have witnessed, have been sometimes hard to watch and hard to hear. I had this one woman reach out to me, and she was literally calling me she was hiding in a closet, and she told me that her collarbone was broken, that her husband beat her and broke her collarbone. And I remember talking to her because all I kept thinking to myself was, how can I help this person? You know? And people reach out to me often. And that's why I'm here today doing this. And I don't care if people talk shit. I just don't care. You know, I'm not discussing this because I want attention. I'm not discussing this because I'm trying to, make this person look horrible. What I'm really trying to do is use my story and my life and the things that happened to me to help and educate people, and just really to inspire. I don't want anybody to be treated that way. And if me talking about it and me giving, a young lady, my ear, and just to listen to the things that she's going through, and for us to just talk about it, if it just inspires one person to leave that relationship, then I'm doing what I'm meant to do with everything that's happened to me. So not long ago, I went to a school in the Bronx. I'm not going to say the name of the school, but I went to a school in the Bronx, and I popped up on a group of young moms that the principal of the school put this together because she was very aware that there were students in her school whose parents were in abusive relationships. So I ended up flying myself to New York, and I popped up on, these young ladies, and they had no idea who was coming. So I walked into the room, and we sat there, no cameras, no press, and we just had really deep conversations, and it was, at the end of that, we were all crying. Everybody was crying, and I sat there and I looked around the table, and there was so many beautiful women there, but you could tell that they were so broken. And a lot of the times they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do because, they are in this relationship. The husband or the man and in the relationship, he works and he's the provider, and they're home with the kids, and they just feel stuck. So I'm hoping that by the end of me meeting them and having these conversations with them, that I hope that it inspired them to really just love themselves, because I think at the end of the day, that's really what it's about. I love myself so much now that I would never allow anybody to treat me that way. I feel like I know what I bring to the table as a woman and a mom and just a person, regardless of whatever the perception is out there. God knows my heart, so I've met many women, I've met many survivors, and I just really hope that my story and me being so open and transparent, inspires and continues to, make women feel strong and make them feel like, you know what, if she did it and she handled that and she dealt with all that craziness, public and all the media and people, attacking her and blaming her, if she could do it, I could do it. And that's really what it is for me. I have a foundation, the Evelyn Lozada Foundation, and I just want to help as much as I can. And I feel like I didn't choose to be a domestic violence survivor, it chose me. So if me talking about it and me being honest and real, and if that can help, then so be it. The most traumatic experience in my life, actually there are two things that come to my mind. The first thing that comes to my mind is when I was 7 years old, or maybe 9, I don't remember, I know I was very, very young, being in my aunt's house with my cousin, and my aunt getting into a physical altercation with her then boyfriend. He was beating on her and they got into this big fight, and she ended up pulling a knife out and she ended up stabbing him. And I remember my cousin and I just being so scared. We were so young, and I remember us just going to a window and yelling out the window for help because we were so scared, and we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know, there was blood, and we saw a knife, and they were screaming, and so that's one of the most traumatic things that I remember from when I was younger. And fast forward to my life, and I don't know why I always connect the two, but the other very traumatic thing that happened to me was me being in a domestic violence incident. I'm a domestic violence survivor. My incident happened about 8 years ago now. And I know sometimes people are like, well, why are you still talking about it? I talk about it now, it's not even about my abuser anymore. It's more so about me living in my truth and using my story to be able to help other women and other men that end up in abusive relationships. So, I'm always going to be vocal. I get a lot of messages. A lot of people reach out to me on a daily, and if my story can help somebody else's, then I'm going to continue to live in my truth. But my domestic violence incident was very traumatic, and it's definitely something that, regardless of where I'm at in my life, regardless of who I'm with, regardless of how many kids I have, regardless of where I live, it's just really something that always stays with you no matter what. And so those are the two things that comes to mind as far as the most traumatic things that I've ever gone through. One thing that I would tell someone in my same situation is to love yourself. You have to really, really love yourself. If you don't love yourself, nobody else is going to love you how you love yourself. And nobody deserves to be treated that way. And that's not love. You being in an abusive relationship, that's not love. Love is should feel good. Love shouldn't hurt. And that's what I would tell somebody going through something like that. And just be there for them. Sometimes you have to be there for people, and not pass judgment because they're in this position and they don't know what to do. A lot of the times it's really, really hard. It's hard. You just, I had it all. I had money. I had my own job, and I still felt stuck. So imagine a stay-at-home mom going through this, raising her kids and just being at home and really not having an outlet. But one of the things that I would tell them is, you have to love yourself. Nobody's gonna love you how you love you. I feel like back then I didn't really respect myself. I didn't really love myself how I should have been loving myself. So yeah, and I think once you start loving yourself and you start respecting yourself and you start valuing yourself, you're like, wait a minute, what am I doing? Like, why am I even allowing this person to treat me this way? You'll feel so much better about yourself. You'll feel so much better about yourself, and you'll feel safe and so yeah, that's what I would say. While I was going through my trauma and while I was in my very toxic relationship, I didn't really talk to many people. I didn't feel comfortable talking to anybody. My relationship was so public. Everywhere we went, people talked about it. We were filming 2 shows at the time. We were like this it couple. So me talking to other people, I just didn't feel comfortable. At the time I was afraid. I was afraid to have my secret out. I was afraid for my family to find out. I was afraid for my daughter to know that I was in this position. I felt humiliated. I felt really, really humiliated. And I was so embarrassed that I was in this position, because from the outside looking in, things looked great. And thinking about it now, the only people that knew what was going on was people that worked for us and people that I confided in, or people that worked for me and happened to be there when something happened. So I didn't confide in many people, and I think that that's one of my many regrets. I think that instead of me being worried about what my family was gonna think, instead of me worrying about their feelings and I didn't know how they were gonna respond, and I just didn't know. I just didn't know how to handle the situation that I was in. So, I suffered in silence for at least a year and a half. And I just didn't say anything until finally my secret was out, because everything was now public. I ended up in a hospital, and while I was still in the hospital, it had already hit the news, and it was already a public story. So looking back at it now, I'm glad that everything happened the way it did because it being very public forced me to leave, because I definitely felt stuck and I didn't know what to do. One of the ways that I would handle the situation differently is by definitely not ignoring red flags. I feel like when I go back and I think about my relationship back then, there was so much stuff going on. There was so many red flags. And the first time that he was physical with me, I stayed. So that's one of the things that I would do differently. After the first time, you have to leave. And I didn't. And I did it because I wanted to believe that this person was sorry. I believed that this person loved me. I believed that he was never going to do it again. And I believed all these things because I wanted the relationship to work so bad. Our relationship was so public, like I said earlier, and I just didn't want to look like a failure. And I was more worried about what the world would have thought. I was more worried about all this other nonsense that just doesn't matter. So that's how I would handle it differently now. I would leave after the first incident, and I will not ignore any red flags. My healing experience was definitely interesting, I will say that. So I did do therapy. I think everybody should be very open to going to therapy. I think if I could go to therapy even now, I still would do it, because I think it's important for us to talk about things and get things out, and I'm very, very open to that. But one of the people that helped me a lot was Mielle Lozada. And although that was so nerve-wracking, being on Fix My Life, I was like on one of the first episodes, and the first season, I'm thinking, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect, but hard-headed Evelyn definitely needed somebody like Mielle to come in and say, hey girl, this is what's going on, and this is why you're acting the way you're acting, and because you went through this as a child, and like it all made sense. So she helps me a lot, and every so often I'll reach out to her if I'm really going through a tough time, just in life in general, not so much having to do with my domestic violence incident, but I value her opinion, and I just love her. She's just been an awesome person, and she's just real in your face. So and you know what, and me just really taking time for myself, really, I'm proud of the woman that I am today. I really am. I have 2 amazing kids, and they say I'm a great mom, which is my number one priority. And just really being around my family has helped me close that chapter and not beat myself up about it, and just be able to move on. Shit happens. Things are gonna happen in your life. Some things you can't control. It's just really about how you get back up. And I feel like that was a really big thing that happened in my life, and I was able to get back up. And I don't let that situation define me and who I am. And yeah, I'm really, in a weird, crazy way, it happened, and I've learned so much from it. you know, sometimes in life we're going to go through things and you're going to learn so much from those experiences. And being that that was such a traumatic experience in my life, I've learned so much from it. How do I see myself then versus how I see myself now? It's two totally different people. You know, I guess back then I felt like I was a mess. You know, I was an emotional mess. I was all over the place. I didn't really feel secure within myself. I was allowing people to treat me a certain way. Versus now, I feel like I'm just very, very secure in the woman that I am today. And I'm proud of that. I'm so proud because I was such a young mom. I became a mom at 17, and to be able to overcome that and be able to, you know, accomplish the things that I have been able to accomplish, you know, although I've gone through certain things, but, you know, I am just a strong woman, and I'm a very, very strong, confident woman. So, yeah, it's gonna take a very strong, confident man to come over here because, you know what, I've been single 3 years and I'm happy. I'm very, very, very happy. So yeah, you know, it kind of feels good not to need anybody, but I think we're starting to turn the corner of like, okay, where's he at?